Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
We'll start within 2 minutes. No? We'll wait for 2 minutes. It's analytics group. Acha. I placed business analytics. Sorry. Latest GS lecture. Okay, we'll wait because the students then they might have waiting. Wait for 2 more minutes. Good morning. सांगा. बरोबर. चलो, we'll start. My voice is audible. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Start the lectures. The last lecture we have discussed the decision theory. How to take the decisions. There are different types of decision criteria. 4 different types of criteria we have already discussed with the help of example, and that is enough because it is a part of one topic. Again, today we are discussing the similar kind of technique, that is a game theory. In your syllabus, they have included the concept of 2 by 2 zero sum game. 2 by 2 zero sum game, it means that the 2 players, 2 by 2 players with a zero sum game and pure and mixed strategy. There are 2 different types of strategies are going to be used in case of decision theory. Then the solution of games with the help of a dominance and average dominance methods. The plain problem we have to discuss, and again the same problem we have to apply the dominance and average dominance method to find out the solution. So this is only the syllabus of the game theory. I think replacement problems also we discuss after game theory. So the simulation and probability is remain. So within 2 to 3 lectures, I will try to finish the game theory. Decision science concepts, and after that, continuously I'll be engaging the lectures of R, and R also we are going to finish on or before 15th of March, because the deadline for completing the syllabus is 15th of March, and after 15th of March, any time your examination will be declared. So you need some preparation holidays also. So you ask your respective teachers to complete the syllabus on or before 15th of March, because I have already instructed all the faculty members to complete the syllabus within time and give some preparation leave. Today I will discuss the concept of game theory. Basically, the game theory came into the picture when a condition is arise in a business or in any practical life, when a situation is, if there are 2 possible solutions, then and only the game theory is came to the picture. In game theory, it is to be clear that there are 2 parties, right? There are 2 parties. If you take any game, there are 2 players. 2 players in the sense 2 parties are there, or 2 opponent parties, one opponent party and one regular party. So in this case, the person or a group of person may be playing a game. It is not like that only a single person or a single man can play the game. Maybe a individual person or a group of person which is going to take the game into consideration. In game theory, always, as you know, somebody wins the game and someone loses the game. That means game means somebody has to win and someone has to lose compulsory. That is the game. It is a type of decision theory. So this is the technique which is developed by a J.V. Newman, right? So it is called J.V. Newman is called a father of a game theory in decision science. Keep in mind in MCQ question, J.V. Newman is the father of game theory, not a father of decision science, father of a game theory, right? So he design and develop the technique of decision science to play the game. The mathematical analysis of competitive problem is fundamentally based on the minimax or maximin criteria. In a decision theory, we have already seen that minimax and maximin criteria. There are four different criteria we already discussed, right? Just go through that theoretically. In game theory also we are using the two criteria, that is minimax criteria and max-min criteria. The minimax criteria is from a minimum element we have to select the maximum. From a list of minimum elements we have to select the maximum. Similarly, in case of maxi-min criteria, from the list of elements, right? From the particular row we have to find out the maximum, and from that output we have to select the minimum one. That means whatever result we are getting in a number, right, by applying either minimum or maximum technique, out of that we have to select the reverse one. If you apply the minimum technique, then we have to select the maximum from the outcome. If you apply the maximum technique, we have to select the minimum from the outcome. Right? That is called a minimax and maximin criteria of developed by J.B. Human. As I said, it is a father of game theory. Each player will act as to minimize the gain or minimize the loss. Maximize the gain or minimize the loss. There. At the beginning, I told you the decision science purpose, the goal is always maximizing the profit and minimizing the loss. So the game theory is also based on the same technique. It is maximizing the gain, this profit, or minimizing the loss. So one player is trying to maximize his profit and another player is trying to minimize his loss. That means ultimately what? If he minimizes the loss, the profit is going to be increased. If he maximizes the gain, the profit loss is going to be minimizing. So the one player is maximizing the gain and other player is trying to minimizing the loss. That is what the concept which we are going to apply in game theory. Game theory is capable of analyzing very simple competitive situation in industry and elsewhere. Wherever a competitive situation is arise, the game theory is came to the picture. The game theory is applied to solve the particular problem. Here I have taken one example. For example, two companies fighting to increase their market share. There are two companies, company A and company B. Both of them, they are fighting to increase their market share. That means there is a competition. There is a competition among between these two companies. It means that the game theory is applicable. The game helps in determining the best course of action, or it is called a strategy for a firm. Because which is the best course of action, that will be the winner, right? Which is the best strategy, which strategy gives the best, it is declared as a winner of a game. We'll see, we'll have an exercise, right? Complete solution. Basic definition of a game theory is, it is defined as an operation research technique. Yes, it is an operation research technique, decision science technique, or quantitative methods technique. Not many names are there, right? It is an operation research technique that deals with the making a decision. Yes, always the game theory deals with making a decision. When the decision is came to the picture, when two or more intelligent and rational opponents are involved under condition of conflict. If a conflict is created, what decision will be taken? We are in a confusion state. We are at a conflict state. In that case, only the game theory plays a major role. So when two or more intelligent and rational opponents are involved under condition of conflict and competition. This is the small definition. So in short, the definition of game theory is, it is an optimization technique It deals with the decision making. And who is going to take the decisions? Either a individual or a group of person. And both, either a individual or a group of person, they are intelligent and the rational opponent to each other to find out the solution. This is the in short the concept of a definition. Now there are some characteristics and terminologies are used in a game theory. Very simple, common. Player. What is a player? Each participant is called a player. Yes. Again, these participants may be a individual person or a group of persons. Sometimes the individual person is taking part in the game. Sometimes the group of persons they are taking a part in a game. So player means either individual person or a group of person. Play. Next terminology is a play. A play occurs when each player selects one of his strategies. When to play? Because a particular player is applying his own strategy. Right? A player occurs when each player select or apply his own strategy. It is called an actual play of game. A strategy or a change of strategy. Strategy or a change of strategy. The strategy are the finite number of possible course of actions. There are n number of strategies, there are n number of alternatives, there are n number of solutions are there. That is called a course of action, which are available to a player. And such n number of strategies, n number of course of actions, n number of possibilities, n number of alternatives are available to both the players, right? To both the players. In order to increase the market share, example, in order to increase the market share, the player either reduce his price. What are the strategies? Now, if you want to increase the market share, what are these different strategies? The first strategy is either you have to reduce the market share, so reduce the price or maintain the price. Okay, either you maintain the same price, because by increasing the price you cannot win. Either you have to maintain the same price or you have to reduce the price. Then and then only your profit or your decision. That means the action. It is a strategic action, right? Course of action, right? There are two types of strategies. Very important. Theoretically, the pure strategy and mixed strategy. When a particular player take a decision, when a single or a particular player take a decision of a particular strategy is called a pure strategy. Mixed strategy, it is a decision of the players, right? Multiple players, right? Choose more than one strategy. Here there is a single strategy, right? So either go for this or that. But here there are multiple strategies are there with the fixed number of probabilities, and the advantage of this particular strategy is to keep the opponent guessing. To keep the opponent guessing, right? Because there are multiple strategies are there. Which one is going to be selected? The opponent has to guess, right? Easily he cannot predict or cannot decide. Number of persons. Again, it's called an n person game if the n number of persons are playing is n. The persons means an individual group of individuals or group of persons. Number of persons, as I said, maybe a single person or a multiple persons. If there are two persons, because in a game, minimum there should be two persons, otherwise no question of game, right? Minimum two persons are required, so it is called also a 2 by 2 game or 2 by n game or n by n game. Number of activities, there are finite or infinite activities. While playing a game, the activities, right? Number of activities are assigned, so that activities may be a finite number of activities or infinite number of activities. Number of alternatives, choices available to each person in a particular activity may be also be finite or infinite. Again, the course of actions, number of alternatives may be finite number or infinite number. There are some limitation. If limited course of actions are there, then it is called as finite. Or if it is unlimited, then it is called as infinite. The finite game has the finite number of activities, otherwise said to be infinite. Yes. Payoff. This concept we already discussed in decision theory. The payoff matrix we already discussed. The payoff, the outcome of playing a game is known as a payoff. The outcome of playing a game is known as a payoff. The outcome is whatever outcome, which is the highest outcome, he will be declared as a winner. It represents the net gain. Outcome is it is in the form of gain theory. It denoted as a net gain. For the firm, for each combination of strategies adopted by them, right? That means what is payoff? The outcome of a gain. Payoff matrix. So from which matrix this net gain is generated, that matrix is given. And the payoff matrix is nothing else. Again, it is a past historical data. Past historical data. Based on that data only, the net gain or maximum possible outcome is to be generated. Payoff, it is a table showing the payoff for the different strategy of game. Now, actual example here I quoted in terms of a notation. There are two players, player A and player B. Player A and player B. All are getting or not? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right? So it is practical concept, right? Nothing is difficult. Okay, the player A. There are two players. Actual examples I will explain. There are two players, player B and player A. Say for example, as I said, if player A is making a maximum profit, then player A is trying to minimize the loss. Minimize the loss. Are you getting or not? Ultimately, the goal will remain same. Right? Who is gaining maximum profit? Who is gaining maximum profit? That is, he will be the winner. Who is minimizing maximum loss? He will be the winner. So player A is maximizing, that is gain. Player B is minimizing, that is the loss. Strategies. For each and every player, there are some certain strategies are defined. Now, say for example, player A, there are two strategies, strategy A1 and A2. For player B, there are three strategies are there. It's depend upon the game, as I said, 2 by 2 game or 2 by n game or n by n game. Player B, it has got three different strategies, B1, B2, B3. It means that here the player B, while minimizing the loss, he or she might be select the either a B1 or B2 or B3. Any one strategy to be selected, not multiple strategies. The player, any one strategy should be selected. Now player A, he is maximizing gain. Okay, fine. But in case of maximizing the profit or maximizing the gain, he has got two different strategies, that is A1 and A2. But both cannot be selected at a time. It is not a concept of game. Game is only one strategy to be selected, and which will be the maximized. So the player A, it has got an option to either select the A1 strategy or A2 strategy. Getting or not? So A1, A2, B1, B2, B3, these are the strategies of a respective player. Now this is the matrix. This is the matrix. Say if a A1 strategy is selected by a player A, right? Then this will be the cost A11, A12 and A13. If A2 is selected, this will be the cost. Similarly, if B1 select B1, then A11 and A21 will be the cost. If B2 strategy is selected, then this will be the cost. Or whatever will be the cost or profit or loss, whatever will be. B3 is A13, this is the cost. Now, the optimum strategy. Optimal strategy means the highest strategy, maximum strategy, the good result. The strategy which puts the player in the most preferred position. Most preferred position, that means what? The highest point, highest profit level, irrespective of the strategy of the competitors, is called an optimal strategy. Highest profit or lowest loss, that is called an optimal strategy. So which strategy is gaining a minimum loss, or which strategy is gaining the maximum profit? Value of the game, it is the expected payoff of the play when all players follow their optimal strategy. The game is called fair if the value of the game is zero. See, keep in mind, MCQ type of questions. The game is called fair if the value of the game is zero, and unfair if it is non-zero. Now, when it is called a zero game, if sum of all the gain is equal to sum of all the loss, if it is equal, then it is called a zero sum game. Otherwise, it is non-zero game. Maybe some less or more value, right? So whatever gain you are getting from the strategy is equal to whatever loss you are gaining, right? Whatever loss you are minimizing, that is the summation is equal to zero. We'll see practically. I'll show you. Types of games. A game represents the competitive situation which has more than one player. When competitive situation is came into the picture, if there are more than one person, if there are more than one player, then only the game is came into the picture. Now, these are some situations when there are two competing players. When there are two competing players, it is known as a two-person game, right? Two persons, but strategy may be n number of strategies. Strategies may be finite number or infinite number of strategies. How many players are there? Two players are there. Player A side, player B side. Player A may be the group or individual. Player B may be a single player or a group of players, group of persons. And if there are more than two, that is say n competing player, it is called a multiple person game or n person game. So keep in mind, in case of MCQ questions, what do we mean by two person game? If there are two players. What do we mean by n person game? If there are multiple persons. If there are multiple persons, say n. If the sum of gains of all winners, very important, keep in mind. If the sum of gains of all winners is equal to the sum of losses by all the losers, see, it is called zero sum game. So in MCQ type, you may ask zero sum game. Find out the answer. So what is zero sum game? The sum of all winners, sum of the gains of all winners is equal to sum of losses by all the losers. Is called a zero sum game. It is equal to, just how I said here. On the other hand, if the sum is not zero, it means that either the gain is more or loss is more, or maybe less or more. So in that case, it is called the sum of all gain is not equal to the sum of all losses. Then it is called a non-zero sum game. Then it is called a non-zero sum game. So there are two types of game: zero sum game and non-zero sum game. What do you mean by zero sum game and what do you mean by non-zero sum game? Thus, a game with the two players where the gain of one player is the loss to the other is known as a two-person zero sum or rectangular game. Right? Thus, a game with the two players where the gain of one player is the loss, where the gain of one player is the loss of to the others. Am I right? If you win, the others must lose. It is called two-person game. If you are winning the game, the others must lose in the game. So if you are winning the game, so that is the you are a game player. Other one is the loser, that is the lost player. A two-person game having a two strategy or each player is called a two-person two game. Two-person two game. Similarly, the game with a two strategy for one player and more than two strategy, that is called a 2 by n game. Two-person two strategy. For both the person, player A will have a two strategy, player B will have a two strategy. But sometimes maybe a 2 by n. 2 by n means the two persons, fine. But first person will have a two strategy, the second player will have a n strategy. That means more than two strategy. It is called 2 by n game. Two persons, 2 by n game, and so on. Maybe the picture is reverse once, n by 2 also, or n by n also. Number of strategy, it is depend upon number of strategy. Are you getting or not what I am saying that? Yes or no?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Now the pure strategy. In pure strategy games, the player stay with one strategy throughout the game. Very simple. Keep in mind. What do you mean by pure strategy? Pure strategy game, the player stay with one strategy. Right from beginning till end, the player adopt only and only one strategy. Throughout the game, he never changed his strategy. That is called a player a pure strategy game. There are some simple steps, right? You try to understand. Otherwise, first we'll have an example, and then we'll come back to discuss the algorithm of an pure strategy game. As I said, there are pure strategy games and mixed strategy games. Two types of examples we have to discuss. Now, the first step, you try to understand. First step, write down the payoff matrix with the maximizing the player. Write down the payoff matrix with the maximizing the player strategies along the row and the minimizing the player strategy along the column. Say it means that we have to find out the minimum from a row and maximum from the column. The same thing we did in decision science, decision theory. We have to find out the minimum from the row and maximum from the column. That is what the step number 1. So here one example is there. Okay, from this particular row we have to find out the minimum. What is minimum? 2. Getting or not? With the help of example I will try to explain. Right?
Yes, sir.
First step is to find out the minimum from the row and maximum from the column. Right? So from the first row, what is minimum? 2 is minimum. Second row, what is minimum? 6 is minimum.
6.
Right? 2 and 6 we are getting. And out of these 2 and 6, what is the maximum? 6.
10.
Right. So here I'm getting 2 is the minimum. Right? Here I'm getting 6 is the minimum. Right? Say what I got here, I got a minimum from row. From these minimum from row, which is the maximum out of 2 and 6. 6 is the maximum.
Yes,
So
sir.
this is called a mini-max game. Are you getting or not? Mini-max. First we selected the minimum from each row, and out of that minimum elements we selected the maximum one. So which strategy is to be, and what is the meaning of that strategy? Mini-max strategy. Are you getting or not? Mini-max strategy.
Yes, sir.
So sometimes they may give the number and they will ask the MCQ to find out. Okay, so write down the payoff matrix to the maximizing the player strategy along with the rows and the minimizing the player strategy along with the column. Right? Okay, now here column wise. If you see column wise, what is the maximum? What is the maximum from first column?
7.
7 is the maximum. So here I wrote here 7. What is the maximum among 10?
10.
Sorry, 10 is the maximum. Again, what is the maximum among B3 column? 6.
6.
Right? So what I selected the maximum among this, and now we have to apply the principle, max min principle. Are you getting or not? What is max min
Yes.
principle? Say out of these maximum values, which value we have to select? Which value we have to select? The minimum one.
6.
Max min principle. Max means, yes, we selected the maximum from each column. We are getting this result, and out of this result we have to select the minimum one. So minimum one is 6.
6.
Now if you look at the column, 6 will be the minimum. If you look at the row, the different strategy I applied, which one? Mini max. So from max min and mini max, here we are getting max min means 6 we are getting, right? Mini max means here also 6 we are getting, and both of the 6, unfortunately here we are getting 6, but maybe different number, right? Both of the 6 belongs to intersection of this. Intersection of this is what is this 6. Are you getting or not? That means the both are intersection of this is this 6. It means that this is the saddle point. This is the saddle point. So A2 and B3 strategy is the saddle point. So it is clear that the firm A, right? Firm A will apply the strategy A2 so that he will gain the maximum. In case of firm B, he may apply the strategy B3, right? So he will try to reduce the loss, right? The lowest loss, minimum loss will be occurred. Now, so A2 and B3, these are the best strategies. So if summation of A2 is equal to summation of B3, it is called zero sum game, right? Otherwise, non-zero sum game. But what about the others? Other strategy. A1 strategy is never adopted. B1 and B2 strategy is never adopted. So their probability is 0. A1 strategy probability is 0. B1 strategy probability is also 0. B2 probability is also probability is 0. But only A2 and B3 strategy, they have got the probability 1. Right? Because this strategy is to be adopted, and this is the game value, right? This is the game value. Now I'll come to the steps, that is algorithm, right? Because theoretically this algorithm is very important. Now write down the minimum element of each row. Just now we have find out the minimum rights. Identify the largest element among these elements and mark it with the arrow. Say this, we already identified, this is the maximum, right? Now similarly, the principle of identify the maximum element among the row minimum is called the max min. This indicates the conjunctive approach for the maximum players. Similarly, write down the maximum element of each column. Just now we calculated, write down the maximum element, that is 7, 10, 6, right? So here write down the maximum element in each column and its bottom column max min, maxima, and mark the smallest element among them with an arrow. This principle of identifying the minimum element among the column maximum is called a minimax. Just as I said, this is minimum of maximum, right? Minimax, minimum of maximum. So now here, so from this highest is calculated, and from highest we calculated the minimum. So minimum of maximum, right? Once it is find out the minimum of maximum, then step number 4, if these two arrows element, that is max min and minimax, are same. Is it max min and minimax elements are same? Yes, right? This is the max-min, this is min-max element, both are same. If these two elements are same, then the elements lying at the intersection of the corresponding row and column is called a saddle point. So corresponding element of this and this will be the saddle point, and corresponding element is again unfortunately 6. Yeah, this is the saddle point, right? This is the saddle point. It is called saddle point. So again, keep in mind, in case of MCQ questions, what do we mean by a saddle point? Right? What do we, or identify the saddle point? They may give the values. So the saddle point means the point where the minimax and max-min values intersection from the matrix is called a saddle point. Step number 5. In a step number 5, the strategies corresponding to the saddle point. The strategies corresponding to the saddle point. Okay. Now here the saddle point is this 6, and the corresponding strategy for firm A, A2 is the corresponding strategy. For firm B, B3 is the corresponding strategy. Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Are you with me? Right? The step by step I'm explaining. Right? So now the strategy corresponding to the saddle point. So corresponding to the player A and corresponding to the player B. So corresponding to the player A, the A2 is the strategy, and corresponding to the player B, the B3 is the strategy. Are you getting or not? The strategy corresponding to the saddle point are the optimal strategy. So which are the optimal strategy? Here A2 and B3 is the optimal strategy. It means that the player A will be stuck up with the strategy A2 and player B will stuck up with the strategy B3. And now, depending upon their value, we could decide that who is the winner, right? Okay, strategy, the maximum strategy decided here, optimal strategy decided here. Once the optimal strategy is decided, there are more than one saddle. Now, the situation may be different. If there are more than one saddle point, then there are more than one solution for each saddle point. Keep in mind, maybe the situation is arise like this also. Sometimes there may be a more than one saddle point, right? If there are more than one saddle point, the solution for each saddle point is separately worked out. We see. If the arrowed element, that is max-min and minimax, which one from our problem, this 6 element, right? Because this is maximum from min and this is minimum from max. So this element, right, is not the same, then there is no saddle point. If this and this is not same, then there is no saddle point. Keep in mind the situation. If the max-min and minimax are not same, which we calculated, max-min and minimax are not same, then there is no saddle point. And the value of the gain lies between these two values. So maybe in MCQ questions, if there is no saddle point, how it is to work out the value of gains? Value of gain is not decided. It lies between these two values. This is a case of a mixed strategy game. Again, there is a scope for MCQ questions. If thus there is no saddle point, right? If there is no saddle point, such case or such example is called a mixed strategy game. Our algorithm here we discuss, that is of a pure strategy, right? That is a pure strategy. We'll have a one complete example on pure strategy, and then we'll switch to the mixed strategy game. And in a mixed strategy, we have to apply these principles of dominance to find out the direct solution of a game, right? Okay, so today I will stop here because at 11 o'clock I have got one meeting, right? Next lecture, I will try to finish this game theory concept, don't miss, right? And whatever examples we are discussing, whatever theory I quoted here, if you understand this theory, I think you don't have any problem to attempt the MCQ type of questions in the examinations, right? Any doubts? Because problems, tomorrow we'll discuss the problem. No? Any doubt?
No, sir.
Okay, today we'll stop. Tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Before 15th, we'll try to finish. Don't worry.